I have a little problem. I have this blank wall in my dining room and I need to fill it. And I have all these canvases that are unfinished or I just don't paint in that style anymore, so I'm redoing them. This is my sketchbook that I'm currently working in, and here's my first project for this wall. I painted over one of those old canvases with some gesso and did a quick sketch from that picture from my sketchbook. I did some color swatching just to kind of pick out colors. I have this big set of Arteza acrylic paints that I need to use, so I think I will use them for paintings in my house. I don't know if I'll sell them or not. Hang out with me while I take you through this process. Again, I have a full-time job that I work, so it's in my spare time that I'm able to work on art. But yeah, so here I'm mixing up background color, some green, and then I decided to add a little bit of red to kind of desaturate it a little bit, and it made it this really kind of light periwinkle color, like this dusty blue color, which was nice. These Arteza paints are not single pigment paints, so they have a bunch of different pigments in them, and I never really know what the paint's gonna do. I'm not a color theorist or color specialist maybe is a better word, but you know, a lot of what I do is just intuitive. And you know, I do pick up tips and tricks on YouTube and stuff along the way. I love watching other artists on YouTube. So if you're an artist and you're watching this, tag me, comment below, and I would love to see your content. However, let's get back to this background. Okay, so my plan was to try to be loose with this piece. I have an issue with, if I plan a lot in the front, it works out easier when I'm making the piece, but I don't have as much fun when I'm making the actual piece. So I'm trying to get to the point where I'm looser, but I have a tendency to not like my loose paintings as much. I like the ones where I've done a lot of planning, but it's just tricky because I don't have as much fun doing them. So it's this weird place I'm in that I'm still trying to find a happy balance. If I had to do it over again, this piece, I think I would have done the white gesso, I would have done the background fully, and then did my drawing on top of it. But that's okay. I had a good time painting this. It kept me busy for weeks, so there was a lot of wins here. The design itself, I had one photograph from work that I took when I was on one of my breaks, and I kind of just used that one photograph to inspire me. And I also have a love for patterning and pattern design, surface pattern design as well, but I realized like a lot of my early work that I made that was non-representational had a lot of pattern and mark making in it. So I'm trying to figure out a way to combine those elements, creating like a pattern, but still having some variety and looseness in that as well. Yeah, so I've gotten about 3 or 4 different green layers down now at this point. And this is when I started adding a glaze. So I blocked in a lot of shapes, except for the flowers. I haven't touched those yet. And now I'm going back on top of the blocked in shapes and adding like a glaze, like a thin watered down wash, so to speak, of acrylic paint on top of this, and trying to give it some depth and shading. Because I wasn't using a photo that had, you know, like if you do a grid and you're like literally looking at the grid and you're copying onto your canvas, you can kind of like do exactly what the photo is doing. I didn't really have that, so I think that was another challenge in this piece, is that I'm kind of like working from my brain and just trying to imagine where the light is coming from. So it's not intended to be realistic. I wanted it to just have movement. I wanted it to feel fun, and I was trying to be more loose. That is something that I'm still working on. But these glazes, I really didn't plan on doing that technique, but once I started it, I really, really liked it. And so I kind of had to go back and figure out how I wanted to do that across the board so it was cohesive. I have a tendency to like change my painting style because I don't have like a set style yet. So if I'm working on a piece long enough, like over days or weeks, like sometimes I can come back to it and paint in a different way and it gives it a different effect. So that is definitely a challenge that I'm working on. But once I found this like glazing that I really liked, I was like, okay, let's go for it. So once I kind of had a good place with the leaves, I realized that there was just a lot going on, and I decided to mix up more of the background color and take out some of the stuff that was like too crowded. It was taken away. There wasn't enough space in certain places. It was a little bit too messy looking for me. And I wanted that at first. Like my intention was to make it very full and vibrant, but at a certain portions of it were just not looking as clean as I like, because I also like a really, really clean aesthetic as well. So these specific leaves here are interpretations of like a bud before it starts to bloom. And so I wanted those to look different. So that's why they're the lighter green compared to like the more mature leaves that are the darker green. And I wanted to give them a little bit of texture. I didn't add tons and tons of texture because the canvas was already had another painting underneath it, layers of paint. It was already very, very textured. And again, it's hard not to change your painting style when you're in the middle of something over the course of weeks. At least I find that to be challenging. But I decided to just continue to layer and glaze accordingly. So I've kind of gotten some depth underneath this. So I did like the blocking in of the color, then I added a couple highlights and shadings, and now I'm going back over it with a darker color, like in a glazing technique again with the water, where it's like watered down. And I think it gave it this like luminescent effect where you can kind of see those yellows and browns kind of popping through, which was really a neat experience. So after many, many layers of paint, many, many hours in the studio, a lot of glazing, a lot of layering, a lot of different editing with the background and taking out things that were too much, straightening out the lines of the leaves and the stems, the vines, whatever you want to call it. I finally got to a place where I really, really was happy with the background. I was happy with the buds. I was happy with the leaves and the vines. And it was now time to start working on the flowers, which I was trying to save till the end. So it already has like the gesso layer of white, but I went ahead and mixed up some white acrylic with a little bit of yellow just to give it a little bit of warmth, because the gesso is so stark white, you can tell a difference. And then I added a glazing on top of the white with like this really, really translucent color and kind of wiped it away and smudged it in with this Q-tip. So it was a process of adding the glaze color and then smudging it with the Q-tip to kind of get the shading where I wanted it to be. This is a super, super textured canvas. So once I did that for all the flowers, I thought I would go back and try to paint the middle part of the magnolia and add some more details to that. So I wanted to do it in a different color. Like my plan originally was to do like pop of yellow in the center of each one, but I tried a couple different ways and it just did not look good because of the glazing technique that I did. It was just too much. It didn't match the style that I had already done. So I scrapped it. I took it all off and I just left it as it was, a not realistic, but still really beautiful floral, and I'm so happy with it. I actually hung it up in the space, and yeah, I'm really, really happy. I just use command strips now to hang anything. I'm tired of fixing drywall, so keeping it simple. But yeah, I love how she turned out. I would love to hear what you guys think if you've made it to this point in the video. Was this a good one? I hope so. Because I decided to make it a print and it's now available in my shop. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye now.